It don't become laughing stock now.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. My name is Maureen Kejon Motosho from the Business Development Department. So we'll give extra 5 minutes to allow more participants join the webinar. Please hold on while we wait for others to join in. Thank you. All right, once again, good morning, everyone. I'm Maureen Kejon Motosho, and I'm delighted to be here today as your moderator for this webinar. Our topic for today is costly errors or costly mistakes in your solar power project and how to avoid them, which will be taken by our facilitator in person of Mr. Ayodele Opashino of DITW Energy More. But before we proceed, we'd like to give an insight on what our facilitator is. Mr. Opashino is he's one of our alumni of the Gen X Academy, the first alumni ever conducted. Mr. Opashino, thank you for gracing this occasion. And before we get started, I would like to take a few minutes to get over some housekeeping items. Please keep your microphones muted. And if you have any questions, please use the question and answer function in the chat. So we'll proceed to the order of today. Next slide, please. Okay, we'll give an insight as to what we do in Genesis Technologies for our new participants or for those that are joining us newly for this webinar. Genesis Technologies is into sales and installation of solar installations. We sell and offer, we sell solar items such as a Canadian solar panel, which is rated one of the tier 1 panels. We have our inverters, ranging from the 1.2 kVA to the 10 kilowatts. We have our all-in-one system. We have the 1.2 kilowatts, and then we have the 5 kilowatt all-in-one system, as well as our solar generator. We have our mounting accessories, and then we are open to new and existing distributors. We also offer the Genesis Solar Academy. At the moment, we are in the 12th academy cohort. Hopefully the next edition or the next academy will be starting by next year or not before April. We'll keep you posted as to the program of the day. Next slide, please. Okay, we'll be taking over from here is our facilitator in person of Mr. Ayodele Opashino, DITW Energy. Thank you very much for accepting our invite, and please let's all listen to him. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I want to say kudos to the Genesis Technology team. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Just like where it has been said, my name is Opashino Ayodele. Happen to be one of the students that graduated from the academy, and I'm delighted to speak on this particular topic this morning. I want to say categorically clear that there are some myths about solar, that solar doesn't work, solar is a bad investment, and solar is too expensive. And that is part of what we're going to demystify this morning in this presentation. And we're going to talk about the pitfalls or some errors that can mar your solar project. And because at the long run, what people will say is that, oh, solar doesn't work. And we are the type that generalize a lot when it comes to jumping into conclusion that solar doesn't work. But before I proceed, I just want to talk about some benefits of having solar power. Some benefit of having solar power. The truth and nothing but the truth is that the energy is free and is accessible by everyone, because when sun shines, it shines on everyone, both the set of people that want it and those people that do not want it. Just like yesterday, somebody was with me and he said, oh, this sun is too much. And I said, why are you complaining? That is what gives me money. So it's not too much. Please, let the sun, let it shine. And again, solar energy is inexhaustible. Just like the good book says that the seed time and the harvest time will always be. So one thing about solar energy is that as long as day breaks, there is source of energy, which is the sun. Again, it's clean, quiet, and environmental friendly. And if your home or your office is connected to the grid, you can save a lot of energy by introducing solar into your facility. You know, presently, Nigeria is facing some energy challenge now. The cost of diesel is rising. The cost of fuel is rising. And people ran to gas. Eventually, so a lot of people converted their generator to gas. At the long run, the price of the gas too jacked up. And I want to add that if you want more from solar, then you can intensify effort by increasing your sizing as the energy demand comes. That's one thing about solar. And if you live in a remote area, where there is no grid connected, you can have your solar installed and you have energy and you join and other people at the part of the world to enjoy what they enjoy in terms of information, getting your things done. So solar energy or solar power is relatively maintenance free because it doesn't contain moving parts. It doesn't contain, you don't need to oil the joint. You don't need to oil hinges, just little maintenance. And it can add a lot of value to you. Now, let's go back to the second fact, which some people, about the investment, that the solar is a bad investment. Now, there is what they call the OPEX and the CAPEX. There's no doubt about it that the CAPEX for solar, that is the cost of acquisition or putting the equipment in place, is very high and it will shake you. But the OPEX is next to zero. Now, the OPEX means the operating cost. It's next to zero because once your system is properly installed, I think the highest you can do is to do maybe cleaning of the panels during hazy or dusty condition. And these are part of what we'll be talking about. So if people are saying, no, solar is a bad investment, then you should ask them that question, that who installed what for you? And what are the materials that you use? And under what condition and environment do you have your installation done? So at the long run, it's costlier to install, but it's cheaper to maintain. In fact, it's next to zero. So I think with this, I've been able to demystify that fact that they said, oh, solar doesn't work. Okay, I'm a living example, and I think the GenX team can attest to this. If you visit any petrochem outlet anywhere within Nigeria, you will see that the canopy has the solar panels mounted on it. And it's not only the pump, there are some of the outlets whereby the operating offices or the mall, the supermarket attached to such facility is running on solar. The gas plant is running on solar. As I'm talking to you, my office here where I'm talking to you is run on solar. I'm not connected to the grid. My house is not connected to the grid. And I'm able to tell you that it's not any bogus system. It's not something too massive. It's just the fact that I understand the concept and I understand my load pattern. And that is just the simple truth. Please, let's go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, yeah. So if you say that solar does not work, then probably we need to ask further from you. And what are those things that could mar your solar project? And a lot of things could mar the project. The good book Please pardon me, I'll be making reference to the good book from time to time because I'm an engineer by profession and I believe in the concept of nature as well. He says that you should not despise your days of little beginning. And if anyone want to embark on any project, you need to count its cost. So just like every other project that you do, grant clearing and other things, so also is solar project. So your site assessment comes to bear when you are conceiving the idea of starting a solar project. So what are those things that you do on your site assessment? Now, we talk about the load and energy requirement. You take them one after the other because these are the recipe to bad or good installation at the long run. The load and the energy requirement. There are some that requires manual calculation. And if you have passed through Genex Academy, and I think this is one of those things that they start with. This is one of those things that they start with when you join the academy. They talk about the load assessment. And the next one is your roof inspection comes to bear. The angle of inclination is very important. Your roof inspection, you need to check the structure. What is it made up of? And what are the materials, the wood, the supporting structure? Are they strong enough? Is there need for you to construct a gantry or what we locally call carport? These are the things that could make or mar your solar project. Then we talk about the shading. Now, in every site assessment, when you inspect a site, there are some things you need to look out for. You need to look at that environment, if there is any structure that is coming up that later on could be built and could cast shadow or shade or obstruction on your solar array when you eventually mount it. So those are the things you need to look out for. Then again, when you finish your load assessment, you are done with the energy requirement. The question is, the available space, can it contain the number of solar panels or the solar modules that you require to pump such energy into the facility? Then you need to look at the electrical infrastructure in that building. The cabling, were they original cable at the inspection? Because your installation still rides on the existing cable, that's the AC cable in that facility. So those are the things that could destroy or that could give you a good result as part of your, that's in your solar project. In your solar project. Yeah. After that, another thing to look out for is what we call system sizing. If you undersize your solar system, I can bet it with you that is already a failure. If you oversize your system, the cost of delivering such projects will definitely be on the high side, and it could scare away the prospective client that is trying to tap into that project. If you are not doing the project yourself, I mean, if it's not your own personal project, you are doing it for a client. If it's oversized, I can bet it with you that the client will tell you, maybe we'll look into this project another time. So if it's undersized, it's going to be a failure. If it's oversized, you end up generating energy that you may not need, that you don't have need for, and which will definitely increase the cost of that project in terms of the storage, in terms of the number of panels, in terms of the balance of system. Let's bring everything together. And the truth is, Nigeria as it stands, clients are hunting for people that can give them the best quality at the cheapest rate. But care must be taken when scouting for cheapest quality, sorry, for the best quality and cheapest price as well, because every project comes with a price. And if the price is too cheap, then is a red light, is a flashpoint that you need to keep your eyes on. And the next one talks about the wrong selection of system components. Now, what are the system components? Your solar panel, your batteries, your inverters, your protective device, your cables, the balance of system, which are the mounting accessories, be it gantry, or you want to do roof mount. Now, let's start a typical example from the solar panel. Genex Technology distributes Jinko and Canadian solar product. And for people that have used Jinko and Canadian solar product, can attest to the fact that if your angle of inclination is right, at peak, you can harvest up to up to about 95%. That's at peak. I'm talking about peak. I'm not talking about nominal. So if you have a solar module that is not performing optimally, you have selected a wrong one, and that is the beginning of the failure of such project. So we have had cases whereby you have roof covered with solar panels, and the customer will still be complaining, no, I don't have enough power. The customer will still be running on generator. So when you go ahead to do tests on the solar panel, discovered sometimes that some of those panels are either not working or underperforming. Another one that comes to mind is the batteries. Broadly, we have three major types of batteries: the flooded, and the maintenance free, which is the AGM or the gel, and we have the lithium. Now, all of them comes with their peculiarity and properties. So your environment where you are installing where you want to have your installation, that's your power project, the solar power project, you need to take cognizance of such environment. If it's a remote area where you have less of movement into such area, what should come to your mind is lithium, because you know that you don't really go there to go and do maintenance. So using flooded in such environment, if you don't have a means of checking the liquid level of that's the electrolyte level, the level of the electrolyte in the flooded battery, if you don't go there the time you're supposed to go to do the maintenance, then there is trouble, because definitely the electrolyte dries off and the battery fails. So you need to determine which battery will fit in for your project. Another one is the inverter. There are a lot of inverters in the market, and what your inverter does basically is to convert the DC power that is stored in your battery or from the panel into an alternating current that powers alternating current load in your house, your refrigerator. If it's in a business environment, some of your motors, that's electric motors that drives the process. If you are doing commercial and industrial grade installation. So for such installation, you need to look into the fact that what you need is a pure sine wave inverters that can withstand shock. Now, if you are doing an installation for data center or medical facility, and you make use of inverters that are not pure sine wave, I can bet it with you that is going to impede on the performance of such machines. And when those machines start misbehaving, you get an error result that could have serious effects on the patient such facility is trying to handle or treat. The next one is a protective device. If you wrongly select your protective device, it's a recipe to failure of the solar power project. For instance, the surge arrestors, the breakers, the earthing system, because the earthing system protects against thunderstorm. If they are not properly done, and there is thunderstorm, and there is thunder, there will be downtime. And at the end of the day, the customer will tell you, oh, solar doesn't work because I barely installed it 2 months ago, and now my site is down. Wrong selection of cables will as well mar your solar project. If your cables are not properly sized. Okay, for instance, you want to string 430 watt panel, just for instance, you want to string it together, and what you want to use is just 1.5 mm flexible cable. Or probably you do not even use flexible, you don't even use solar cable. There are solar cables, there are cables that are meant for solar installation. So wrong choice of cables will either reduce the performance of your panel or is an impending danger that could cause fire outbreak in your installation. Likewise, the AC cables, that is from the inverters to the load, the termination into the load. If the cables are wrongly selected, the system will underperform, and I can bet it with you that the site will be down. The next one that we're going to talk about is quality of the component you're using as well. Just like I said, there are a lot of vendors all around everywhere. They are on the internet, they're on all the social media platforms. If you don't do your due diligence in terms of the quality of materials that you want to use. Now, we've talked about the batteries, we've talked about the inverters, we've talked about the panels, we've talked about the balance of systems all together. If you're making use of bus bar, what is the requisite amperage of such bus bar? Does it match your installation? If you are doing a kind of system that is fully autonomous, what are the systems put in place? What are the monitoring systems that you have in place? Thank goodness, most of the inverters from Genex Technologies have monitoring system that can help you to check the health of your facility. anywhere in the world. So using poor quality system components could cause system failure. It could cost costly repair, because if the site is down, the money you are trying to save, the money you are trying to, let's put it that when you put, like the local parlance, they call it, somebody is doing economics, that you want to make the best use of the resources that you have. But while trying to save costs, does it impede or does it impact positively or negatively on such project? Then another one is the safety hazard of quality of poor quality system components. If the facility goes in flame and is traceable to the solar installation, the news will go around everywhere, and they will say, oh, Mr. A installed solar in his house and his house is on fire. So generally, solar power system is not safe. There is customer dissatisfaction and loss of reputation. And for every practitioner in this field, I want to appeal to you that you need to do what is right. There are a lot of, the field is full of quacks and is full of a lot of unlicensed practitioners. But your name is very important, and how you protect what you do. And I want to say that no client will be happy with you if his site goes on flame. And the next one we're going to talk about, has to do with the orientation and the shading, just like we said the other time. Now, when you do your site inspection, we need to look for potential trees that could grow with time to shield the panel. That's the solar module. Because sometimes when you do the installation, the trees may not have grown. Might not have grown up to that level, but after some months, it grows. And there is a way it casts shadow on the module. For instance, you have a 2,000 watt solar array installed in a particular place, and 75% of the surface is covered by the shadow of the tree that is growing. Definitely the customer will always come back to you. He said, oh, my system is shutting down at night, or we cannot even do anything with it during working hour because there's no sufficient power to be stored in the battery and even to run the business. The building and surrounding structures need to be looked at. So if you have any structure that is coming up, or probably you intend installing solar in your facility, the best is you start early enough, in the sense that you bring in a reputable vendor or a reputable installer or an engineer to execute the project with you, to look at the pitfalls in the surrounding areas as a result of buildings, as a result of other structures that could come. So he can best advise you on what to do. Then another one that could mar your solar project is non-placement of solar panel to maximize sun exposure. And this one has to do with the first point that we mentioned. There are some roofs that most installers do call send down the rain. So the implication is that you have about 60-degree angle of inclination. So definitely, if you have such facility and you can go on gantry or carport, then you need to look for the suited, that's the best suit position to install such panels. And as a rule of thumb in Nigeria, it's always advised that your placement should be along the south. That's, the sun rises at the east and sets at the west. But along that path, the south will always be illuminated. So that is one rule of thumb. However, when you don't have the luxury of achieving this, then the best way is to compensate probably with additional panels. Now we're going technical now. We're talking like a field person now. So you need to augment the loss that will result from such a shortage. So probably if your requirement is 2,000 watts and you know that your angle of inclination is not right, and you've explored every other means of maybe placing it on gantry, there's going to be shading, then the best is to increase the number of modules to compensate for such loss. So non-placement of solar panel to maximize sun exposure will mar your solar project. The next one we're going to talk about is poor installation and commissioning. Now, that brings me to the fact that no matter how quality the equipment is, if you have a poor installer in place or during commissioning, what's supposed to be done and not done in sequential order, there is going to be failure of such project. Now, what are those things that will cause problem during commissioning and during the course of commissioning? The number one thing for example, having series of string of panels, the same string of panels installed in different position. For instance, if you do the high voltage, the one we call high voltage, if you are doing a long string system, probably you have about 6 strings in series. And what you have done is to distribute the modules that belongs to the same string. And you install them in different positions. And knowing fully well that the current of such system is in series. So once the worst performing panel output is what you get in such string. So definitely is a recipe to failure of such project. Another one to look out for is the sequence of your loading. That's the loading sequence. You need to look out for the AC load, the cabling. That's the output of your inverter should be connected to the proper cabling to withstand static load. There are some loads that, just for instance, you are turning on air condition, or you are turning on any load that has that is inductive in nature, definitely is going to drag power from your system. And if such system is not wired to do that, it's going to cause a glitch on the line of inverter. Then all your joints, for instance, battery connectors to the terminal of the batteries, to the bus bar, must be properly tight. If this is not done, these are loose ends that could cause a potential danger to the performance of that system. Then let's bring it home. Still, we're talking about commissioning. Now, one of those mistakes that most installers make, especially be it you're using an hybrid system or you're using a non-hybrid. That's non-hybrid in the sense that you have a separate charge controller and the inverter is separate. Now, people often make mistake of turning on the solar input. That's turning on the solar input without supplying without supplying let me call it the battery input to the controller. If you have your solar panel connected via the breaker into your, which is the normal thing, to the input of your charge controller, and as well there is a breaker between the battery and the charge controller. The first one that comes into play during the course of turning on your system or commissioning is to turn on the breaker that connects the battery to the charge controller first, before introducing the solar panel input into the charge controller. Now, if you do that, if you do the solar panel first before the battery input, it could damage the controller, it could damage the inverter. This is one good example that I'm making reference to. The next one is neglecting system maintenance. We have three categories of batteries: the lead acid, which is the flooded, the AGM, we have the flooded battery, we have the AGM and the gel, and we have the lithium. Each one of them has certain maintenance that needs to be put in place. That's in terms of batteries. Now, what is the maintenance? For the flooded batteries, there's need to check the electrolyte level, and most manufacturers advise you top up with distilled water. So as the level goes down, you check from time to time. Then sometimes at the battery terminal, there is possibility of certain growth on the terminal. So there is need for grease, application of grease from time to time. The next maintenance you need to do on the dry cell battery is to check the health of such batteries in terms of the temperature of such battery. Look for any potential bulge on such battery. You need to observe. Probably there is overcharging of the system. The smell, those are the things to look out for. Then the maintenance on the solar panels is during hazy condition. You may have to do your own cleaning, because during dry season, there are a lot of dust particles on the panels. And when rain is not falling, there's possibility of dust particles covering the surface of the panels. That's the solar module. So there is need for time to time to clean so that it doesn't reduce the performance. Then the final one that you need to look out for is the general health of your system. And that is why it's always good that you have your remote monitoring in place to check, because regular check is a recipe to prevention of a wider or a more disastrous accident that is waiting to happen. The next one, as we round up, because I know my time is fast spent, is not being fully aware of prices and warranty conditions. Not being fully aware of prices and warranty conditions. Now, there are inverters, there are batteries, there are solar panels, and there are rack. Now, what I'm talking about is that all of them comes with different prices, with different warranty conditions. So I want to tell you that if it's too cheap, so also the warranty conditions. There are some that offers 1 year, 2 years for inverters, solar panels from 10 to 25 years, depending on the type you are settling for. These are the necessary information that you need to arm yourself for so that you have a successful solar project. Because if you don't know the warranty conditions that is attached to any product you use, when the time comes for claiming of such warranty, and you discover that there are a lot of infraction in terms of what you have done, then that project is bound to fail, because you need to, the site will be down, and you need to run out to go and look for money, probably to do a replacement, or probably to follow up with the company that gave you such warranty, and how authentic such warranties are. So more to that, I want to generally say that what is anything that is cheap, the cheapest item is the most costly item. So in summary, I want to say that as a developer, as a vendor, as a client, for you to have a successful solar project, these are the red lights that you need to look out for. And it's very important because of the growing need, the growing demand for solar installation in homes, commercial scale, and in businesses. These are the things, these are the information that you need to have in order for you to have a successful solar project. So I thank you for your rapt attention, and thank you for listening. Thank you. Over to you, Mrs. Moroni KG.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Okwashino. I would have said the lecture was very informative. I won't say lecture, I'll say the teaching, because we thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge. That was very informative. We are really grateful. We appreciate that. So please, we'll be taking 1 or 2 questions before we round up for today. So please, if you have any questions, you can drop your question and answer in the chat box. We'll take it up from there, or you signify.
Yeah, my hand
Okay,
is
so
up.
please, we have a question from Mr. Chris. He said, I have 2 questions. So please, you can just.
Yes, good morning, and thank you so much for the lecture. 2 quick
Okay,
questions.
go ahead, please.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, 2 quick questions. You spoke about orientation.
Yes.
And you said the rule of thumb
Mr. Chris.
Is southern orientation.
Yes, that's in
What is
Nigeria.
the rule? Yeah, in Nigeria.
Yes.
What is the rule of thumb for angle of inclination of the panel? That's one.
Okay.
Number 2, you talked about starting, when you are starting up, you should start to connect the battery first before the solar. Yes. How about shutting down? What is the procedure?
Same procedure.
And will the recorded version of this be sent to participants? That's the last question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I respond to Mr. Chris?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, yes. In the first place, I think it's an omission from my own side. For every country, there is what they call insolation data, which is necessary for that's the solar resource that gives you the idea of this solar insolation for the year. Then the angle of inclination, if you can maintain, we talk about between 5 degrees to 30 degrees, you get something good. Now, why we said, and again, when let's just put it, let's just put a benchmark for self-cleansing of your panel, of your solar module. Let's put it at 10 degrees, because if it's too flat, such that the sun is falling on it at a perpendicular angle, you get a good performance, but you compromise the self-cleansing of such panel. So to put it in perspective, if you can maintain between 10 degrees to 30 degrees for angle of inclination, I think you are home and dry. That is the first one. The second one about the commissioning. Now, you on the battery, that's the breaker connected to the charge controller first, so that the charge controller or the inverter, if you are using hybrid, has already sensed a signal from the battery. So the next thing is to turn on the breaker between the panel, that's the module, or to the charge controller, or to the hybrid inverter solar input. Now, if you are shutting down the way you have come, that is from it will now be the reverse way. If you are shutting down the panel first, then if you have utility connected to the system, you shut it down. If you have load connected to such system, you shut the load down as well. The final one is the battery. I hope I've been able to answer Mr. Chris' question. And the last one is I throw it to Mrs. Omotosho to answer that, whether the recording will be available for the audience. Thank you. The next question.
All right, sir. Well, we have a question from Mr. Adekunle Mohammed.
Okay, good morning, sir. My question goes down to Genesis as a whole. I want to. Are you with me, sir?
Yes, we're with you. We're listening.
I want to ask if there is an advanced training for, there is as technology increases now. There are different set of training that should be acquired by an expert team to assimilate more or to increase set of understanding about the installation as well. Is there any improvement that technology in computer they do to increase the knowledge of the installer? So
Okay.
that's what I want to ask.
Okay, thank you.
And likewise, the shading you talk about are faced in more challenging on that area where I wasn't very fully on knowledge about the shading aspect of it. But what I want to ask now is that can the panel be can it change direction, because it will not face, it will not have the sun perspective if we decide to change the solar from the way it's being installed. They will have enough intensity of the sun. So how can we go about that?
Okay, Madam Omotosho, please, before you respond to this, let me just respond to the academic training. Now, is Mr. Adekunle is asking about additional. Am I right? You are Mr. Adekunle, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. you're asking about additional knowledge or advanced training. Now, I'll put it this way. I think in 2016 precisely, was it 2016 or 2017? I can't remember. That was when I passed through Genes Academy. And I want to tell you that after that one, we've had other training in terms of webinar just like this, because there are some of those trainings that are not only hands-on, they are hands-on training, and I know that the windows are open for the academy, the people that pass through academy, because I know that sometimes when they are working on any installation, they always call from time to time for people to come and learn. That's so that you can have a site knowledge. Okay, presently now, Genex has lithium batteries. Genex has lithium, they have lithium batteries that, that they are selling and they are installing on site. So I want to say that Madam KG should oblige to some of the participants that have passed through the academy that want to see live and direct how such batteries are installed with the inverters, because I know what was trained then during the academy was the AGM and the flooded. So that is that about that. The second question about shading. Now, when there is shading, now there is always what we call there is always what they call worst case scenario. Now, the worst case scenario is that when you look at the point that probably is at the south, that is when your panels, your modules supposed to be positioned, and there is going to be shading. Then if you have the ability to distribute the same string, we're talking about the same string now. For instance, you have maybe 3 strings. Each of the string must face a particular direction. Now, each of the string must face a particular direction. So if I have 3 strings now, I may decide to say, okay, since there's going to be shading on the south, and I have maybe a little space on the west, I have a little space on the south, I can decide to distribute those modules along that line and add additional one to compensate for the loss that I may record as a result of that shading. So if when you have shading, that means if you are leaving that particular location that can give you optimal performance, there is no doubt about it that you have to add more to the number of modules that you're going to use. Thank you. I hope I've been able to answer your question, sir.
Okay, yes, thank you very much for that. For the slide, after the webinar, the slide will be available on our YouTube channel within 24 hours. And then you can subscribe to our YouTube channel to check other existing webinars that have also been posted there. Now for the live demonstration, thank you for the feedback. We'll put that into consideration, not even consideration, we'll put that into reality. We'll be sharing live updates and videos of our product, how to install them, possible guidelines, what to watch out for, and then to prevent mistakes. Now, please, we have a question again from Afiz. He said, what is APEC and OPEC? And then we also have a question from Mr. Chris again. He said, please, which design software would you recommend? Thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you. Now, it's actually OPEX, operating costs. That is OPEX. Then the CAPEX is the capital costs. Now, the capital cost is the cost of acquiring all the equipment and putting that site in place. That is the money spent to buy your panels, to buy the inverters, to buy the batteries, the mounting rack, all the balance of systems, and the cost of installation. That is the capex. Now, the opex is the cost of maintaining such item. For instance, let's put in perspective, you have the difference between generator and the solar power system. For solar power system, the capex, that's the cost of acquiring that system is high. But like I said, the operating cost is next to zero. Now, for the generator, the cost may be moderate, but that's in terms of acquisition of the such generator. But the cost of running that generator in terms of fueling, in terms of maintenance, which is the operating cost, is higher. So I hope I've been able to answer that question, Mr. Afis. Over to you, Mrs. Omotosho.
All right, thank you very much for that. Okay, I think we'll be taking this last question from Mr. Innocent. He said, why did you say lowest performing panels affect others in series?
Okay, good. You know, just from, don't let me take it because of people that do not have electrical background, but there is what they call series and parallel. Now, when you have connections, when you have your modules in series, for instance, maybe you have 300 watts in series, then you have 200 watts in between them. The allowable current on that string is the current of the 200 watts, because the 200 watts cannot push more than what it's meant to do. The same thing when you connect in parallel. When you connect in parallel, the output you get when you connect in parallel is the value of the smaller panel that it can parallel with the bigger one. For instance, if you parallel 200 watts with 300 watts, if you do your calculation, you may end up with having 400 watts, because the smaller panel we force the bigger one to assume the same value with itself. So that is why it's not good to either do the two, whether you series it or you parallel it. You do it in series means is in the same string. You parallel means that you connect the positive part of A to positive part of B, and the negative part of A to negative part of B. I hope I've been able to answer the question.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for that once again, Mr. Okwashino. Thank you for impacting knowledge. Thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge. Thank you for making this section very informative. I believe we can actually extend this offer beyond webinar. We can go to the next academy coming up next year. We hope you will acknowledge our invite once you get that next year. So for the, like we said earlier, we look forward to that. So as mentioned earlier, the slide will be available on our YouTube channel within the next 24 hours. So please, we advise you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any notification. And then for live product description, we will also be available on our social media platforms, on our Instagram handle, Facebook handle, and YouTube channel. So we come to the end of today's webinar. The next date for the next webinar will be communicated as soon as we get the date fixed. Thank you very much for today, and I believe that together we can make a difference. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.